Hey, SongTown, I'm Clay Mills. I'm here with Marty Dodson. We've written over 15,000 songs between us, and here are 5 things we've learned.
Why don't you kick it off?
I'm going to.
All right.
First on my list, Marty, is inspiration needs direction.
Indeed.
And what I mean by that is I've found that I learned along the way that songs really need a clear focus, meaning that everything needs to work together. Your lyric tone, your music, your production, everything needs to center around this center around a center emotion. And it needs to have that clarity and focus so that you don't confuse the listener about what's going on. And I found that when we all first start writing, say we get our heart broke and we sit down and we write a song, and it's like every ounce, every fiber in our body is committed to that emotion.
Right.
So we have lots of direction, and so we're sitting there, we write, it's clear, everybody knows exactly what we're trying to talk about. But when we don't have those life-changing events like that, that's what I think separates the average songwriter from a great songwriter or a professional songwriter, is that we have to show up every day and find that direction without that life-changing event. We have to put ourselves into that song with that same kind of intention that we have. And I think that's what really, once we learn to do that as writers, I think we take it to that next level.
Yeah. I don't know how many times I've had, particularly artists. One guy one day came in and said, man, we wrote this song in 15 minutes on the bus. Somebody just had this idea, and we went crazy, and we wrote it in 15 minutes, and he played it for me, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, And they had some good ideas in there, but
Right.
that inspiration needed direction. They kind of looked at it like, well, just because we thought of it quickly, it must be great.
Or just because we had a great time writing it.
Right.
We were so into it and we had fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it has that focus and that intention of what's that one idea your song is about. Strip away all that other stuff, focus in on that, and you cut to the core of that emotion. I think that's what really works best.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you get inspired, sometimes that inspiration needs direction to make a great song.
Yeah, I mean, we could also expand on that idea. And, a lot of people go, well, I only write when I'm inspired, and like, okay, but if you want to have a life as a songwriter, that's not going to work out too well.
Yeah.
Do you only work out at the gym when you feel like working out? Because I personally work out several times a week. I never feel like working out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing. And so I think, it's important that we learn to take it to the next level with our inspiration and our direction.
Yeah, learn how to get yourself inspired instead of waiting on it.
Yeah,
that's great. One of mine, I think, would be not to take the first exit off the interstate.
Yeah.
When we throw out an idea in the writing room, a lot of times people will go, and just take off writing it. But often that's the most obvious way to write it. That's why they had that knee-jerk response to it, because there's just like, that's the first thing they thought of.
Right.
And so I always try to slow down a little bit and explore the idea a little bit more than that, so that we're going, maybe that's a great angle, but let's talk for just about 10 minutes about whether there's some other angles that might be more interesting or more unique. Because, we've all got hundreds of songs, if you've written for a long time, that are just the same old thing, and it's because we took that first exit. So I'm always encouraging people, and in my co-writes, I'm always the one going, hey, let's just slow down for just a second, explore what we've got that idea, so let's explore it a little bit and see if we can come up with something else that might be a little bit better.
Yeah, I love that. I think Jason Duke said that when he was writing with you. What was the phrase you said? Just so we don't make $1 million in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's Jason's phrase, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, let's go back and look at it again and see if we can dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that keeps the whole session moving in a positive direction.
Yep.
I think from the music side, where I always had the most success as a writer was when I was writing a melody, if it felt like to me I'd heard it before, if it was something I'd done, like I had done something similar, or maybe I'd heard something similar on the radio, I tried to stay away from that. I tried to push deeper. And I think that's the same thing as you're talking about with lyrics, is that you're not taking that obvious thing. So what I always wanted to do was I wanted to keep working on my melody until I felt like I was excited about something. Like, this is new to me. This is fresh, and if I could reach that point, then I felt like those songs were going to do better than if it was just like, yeah, this is the same kind of chords and melody I played on my last 5 songs.
Right.
And I think that's where people, when they say, oh, you shouldn't write every day, I think it's because they don't know how to dig deeper every day,
Right.
and so they feel like, well, if I write every day, it's going to sound like the last 5 days I wrote because I didn't take any time off. But I think you learn over time to dig deeper every day and find that new territory.
Yeah, I love that. Another thing I think I've learned is that I still have a lot to learn. It seems like almost every day I'll be writing and somebody will do something in the room and I go, oh, I never would have thought of that. Somebody plays a chord and I'm like, what'd you do right there?
Yeah.
And to me, that's one of the exciting things about songwriting is that you never master it to the point that you're going to write a hit every day. And I actually love that because it just means there's room to grow. There's always room to be better. Tomorrow's song could be better than today's. And if you just keep that growth mindset and learner's mindset that, you can just keep building on everything you know.
Yeah, and that goes back to what I just said about trying to stay fresh and writing music that excites you. A big way I do that is if I hear a chord I've never used in a song, I'm trying to go, okay, well, today when I sit down, and that could be our next point I talk about is approaching a writing session with intention.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I hear a chord that I've never heard or never used in a song. And I hear it and I go, okay, today I'm going to sit down and how can I work that into my song that I'm writing? For years I was going around with this idea that I wanted to start a verse of a song off on the 5 chord. So if you're thinking in this key of C, C would be your 1 chord, G would be your 5 chord. So I went on a tour bus to write with Darius Rucker, and we wrote a chorus, and the chorus starts on the 1. And, it has a great chord progression. And I got to the verse, and something just says, let's start on the 5 chord. I'd never done it before. I didn't know how to do it how was I going to get from that back to the chorus and make it sound fresh? But I just trusted that, started on the 5 chord, and we wrote something that was unique that launched his whole career as a country artist. If I had not done that, if I had done just the normal thing of, well, we started the chorus on the 1 chord, let's start the verse on the 1 chord, I don't think that song would have been special. It was being able to do something a little different that made it special. So I always try every session I sit down to have an intention of using something that day that I haven't used before, a chord progression. Maybe it's the other day I sat down, I was like, there's a lot of songs that started that I like that have what I call an octave and a 7th, like chestnuts roast, da da da, somewhere over the rainbow. There's all kinds of songs throughout history that started with that octave and then the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to do that. So I sat down specifically to write a chorus that had that melody trick at the top of the chorus.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that at least it gives me a launching point, a direction. So I'm not just searching and waiting for the universe to go, oh, here's an idea for you to write today.
Mm-hmm.
So I always like to start with intention.
I've done that with your videos on SongTown. I'll take like your line plus 3 idea and I go, okay, I'm going to try to work that into my song today, somehow, and that kind of stuff. Well, I've got one more.
Okay.
So my last one is there's always something to write about. When I first started out, And there would be days I would be like really struggling to find something I was excited to write about. I asked Kim Williams, who was my publisher and mentor, like, how do you find something new to write about every day? And he said, if you're looking for it, there's always something to write about. And he encouraged me to like really have my radar up all the time. Like, so when I'm in a coffee shop, I'm observing things, or if I overhear a conversation, I'm going, that could be a song, So I think if you are looking for song ideas and you have that expectation that life brings you all kinds of things to write about, then you can always find something new to write about.
You mean after we've written 15,000 songs, we still can have things to write about?
Yeah, exactly.
I heard Desmond Child the other day talking about that, how he's written 4,000 plus songs. Desmond's one of the, he's
big hit songwriter.
Probably the biggest, most hits of the last 30 years he wrote. And how does anybody wake up every day and find new inspiration? And that's the gig. Mm-hmm. When artists, they put out an album with 12 songs on it, that's their year. But songwriters, our gig is to wake up every day and show up and write a song and find the inspiration, find something new to write about, and that's the gig.
That's it. We want to thank our sponsor, Sweetwater. They've got all the gear you can imagine, instruments. They're super people, so check them out in our show notes, along with some links to books we've written, and we will see you next time.
Cheers.